evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 19th Village Board Legislative Session. This meeting is now called to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Quezada,
present.
Trustee Levin,
Present.
and Mayor Garrity.
Present.
We have this evening a public hearing for the purpose of hearing public comments on the Village of Ossing's community development needs and to discuss the possible submission of one or more community development block grants applications for the 2017 program year. Corporation Counsel,
Thank you, Mary Ann. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. Previously, the board had approved a resolution for the village to be involved with this grant proposal. We have our Director of Planning, Lynn Brooks Avni, here to answer any questions with regard to the grant proposal through the Community Development Block Grant Program.
Okay, so this public hearing, it was a requirement of the New York State CDBG program 2017 housing application funds, and the village is partnering again with IFCA to apply for funds to rehabilitate 144 Spring Street, which has 2 affordable apartments, 14 Broad Avenue, which has 3 affordable apartments, and 16 Broad Avenue, which has 2 affordable apartments, for a grand total of 7. That will be preserved and rehabilitated, and the hope is to obtain the grant and use the funds to renovate the roof, attic, and basement, and possibly some major system upgrades within the buildings. Any questions?
No, thank you very much for working closely with IFCA to try and bring this forward. It's very similar to a grant
Yes.
that was applied for in 2015 and awarded last year. And I know the work for that project is now underway. I believe we had the
Yes.
groundbreaking a couple months
Yes.
ago. Great. Well, apparently it worked. It was a good formula the first time. Let's hope it works well the second time. Thanks for helping make the process happen. Any other questions or comments for Lynn?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
not seeing anyone to comment. Do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So move.
All in favor? Aye. We just skipped right over to all in favor.
Okay.
Although I believe that Trustee Bazemore is probably going to abstain from the vote. Even to just close the hearing, which is.
Okay, we have mayors and trustees announcements.
I will open up by saying thank you to our friends in the town of Ossining. They brought an opportunity forward for a number of us in the Ossining community to get together, and we spent a day at 16 Croton Avenue today with a gentleman from Bloomberg Philanthropy. There's a really significant grant opportunity available to, they use the term cities. Really, it's any municipality with more than 35,000 folks in it, which the town of Ossining qualifies. So there were a whole bunch of us around the table. Debbie and I were there from the village. There were a number of folks from the town and from community groups, including the Chamber of Commerce and a representative from the Downtown Redevelopment Working Committee, Green Ossining. We were pleased to have the county DOT there, particularly helping us understand the how we may or may not be able to work with the Beeline bus system. It was a really fascinating day, and I think we came to some clarity on what might be a wise path forward to trying to access some funding that could help provide greater connectivity between the various hubs of commerce and culture and residential neighborhoods throughout our whole community. So thank you very much to the town to bringing that forward. And I don't know if Debbie wants to comment on it in her remarks, but it was probably the first time that Debbie got to meet some of those folks, and we're going to dig right in and start working together on a project. So that was really a rewarding day. It's tough to commit a whole day to a workshop, but I think it was very valuable. Anybody else have any announcements? All right, then I will just encourage folks, if you have a bunch of stuff around your house that you would like to put outside for a tag sale, quickly go to greenaustining.org. I believe today is the last day for signing up to be part of the community-wide tag sale. If you sign up, then there's a whole process there for getting a sign that looks like this on your lawn, and then it'll be anybody who's shopping for tag sale items that weekend will get to know that your house is one of the homes to go and visit. This is at least the third or fourth time that Green Austining has undertaken this semi-annual community-wide tag sale. And it's consistent with one of their goals, which is for us to create less junk to put in the landfills, which is also one of the motivating factors in their more recently established repair cafes. So tag sale coming up for anybody who wants to just shop is October 7th. Mark your calendar. And for more information, go to greenaustining.org. Madam Clerk.
We will move on to administrative reports, and we'll begin with Village Manager Deborah McDonald.
Thank you. Today is day 12 of my employment here, so it's still really an exciting time. I do want to just add a little bit about what Mayor Garrity said today. Having the opportunity to meet with someone of the caliber that was there was very fortunate to us, and they gave us the tools that really helped us or will help us with our community in how we define our programs, how we name those programs, and how we really look at the intricacies of how the different things that we want to accomplish here in the village, we can achieve through grants. So I think that by providing that framework, it'll be, for the discussions that we'll have with our community, will be very valuable. So I was very grateful to be there, and thankful to the town for inviting me as well. I do want to talk a little bit about budget and budget timelines. So I was looking at the format for last year on how you went through your budgets, and it looks like you had 2 evenings and 2 full days where you actually went through the budget with staff. So we were looking this year at Monday, November 6th, Wednesday and Thursday, November 8th and 9th as tentative dates. So I wanted to give that to you now so that you could put it on your calendars, and if anyone has a conflict with that, you could let us know and we can adjust accordingly. We did want to do the format just a little bit different this year, and I think that it'll be valuable for us to really look at the higher level of the budget as opposed to line by line on the budget. And if that's acceptable to you, then we can shorten this up a little bit, but we definitely want to put the full schedule out there to you. So those are the 3 dates. So after you get home and look at your calendars, if you could let me know if that'll work for you, then. Pardon? Okay.
So, I'm sorry, were those all evenings? The 6th, 8th, and 9th were all evenings?
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe we can follow up with emails if people want to
Right.
weigh in a little more
Right.
detail.
So we do realize that Tuesday is Election Day, and so I wasn't sure if that was going to be an issue.
Yeah, Tuesday's not an option.
Right. So day meetings would be Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and an evening meeting on the 13th, which would be the final review. Day meetings, Monday, the 6th, Wednesday and Thursday, which would be November 8th and 9th, if we're going to do full day sessions. And then the evening meeting, which just the final wrap up, would be on November 13th. So if there's any questions about that, we certainly have enough time to adjust. So I just wanted to put that out there for you. I wanted to also mention to you that during the budget, I am working with the staff on all of our organizational charts. And I think that's really going to help us put together a full picture of our organization and how many people work here and what they do. I'm hoping that that'll be of value to all of you. It'll go into our budget document. And if there's any questions, we'll get it out to all of you so that you can see it and provide some feedback at a later time for us on those things. But there are some, minor tweaks and changes and some staffing realignment that we're talking about internally. Nothing significant, not adding staff, other than we do want to think about adding staff to our building department because that's a critical need for all of us and something that all of you have shared with me is very important to you. In addition to that, I want to thank Jamie and Lisa for putting together the boards and committees and the list of who's on them and who needs to be reappointed. I would like to, and I think we talked about this in a work session, where we put out to the general public an announcement that there are many jobs that are available for volunteer for boards and committees, and see what type of applications we get back in, and then have an opportunity to meet with you, decide what your decisions are on who you want to appoint to these boards. I think it's really important that they're full and that they're active, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to see who can be reappointed, who wants to be, or if there's some new people that want to get involved in some of our boards and committees. So I'm also working on that, and we'll be getting that to you as well. Well, actually, I think Jamie already sent it out to you. So if you have any questions, let us know.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't forward it on then. I will forward it to the
Okay.
board so everybody can take a look at it.
Okay, all right, great. I think that's it for right now. I have a couple other reports, but we'll do that when it comes time for that committee or that department.
We'll move on to Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board. I'm pleased to announce that the Law Department has an intern. Darlene Motley, a fourth-year evening student from Brooklyn Law School, is helping me out, and she has started. We are continuing to get resumes from other law students as well as recent law graduates from Pace University. So we will be speaking with some of those folks, but I did speak with Darlene, was very impressed. She already has received her first assignment, and I am looking forward to receiving the work product. Over the past couple of weeks, we've received a number of notices of claim for sewer backups and car accidents and things like that. What sometimes happens, and I think people don't understand what the process is when you get a notice of claim, and basically what a notice of claim is, it's a notice that generally gets filed with the clerk's office advising us that there's been a claim against the village for some act that the village allegedly performed. What I want people to understand, because I think I've got a number of emails to this, so that's why there's a misunderstanding. The fact that you file a notice of claim does not mean that the village is going to automatically turn over a check for the amount of money that you claim is being damaged. What we do is we investigate the particular claim. If it's an auto accident, we get the reports. If there's photographs, we'll deal with insurance companies. And if we believe it is something that's worth getting to be settled, it will be settled. If it's something that becomes somewhat more complicated, we may refer to our outside negligence counsel. But I want folks who file those notices of claim just to be assured that what happens is it is a process of going through getting all the necessary documentation. If in fact it's determined that the village is responsible, be it for an accident or some other act, then efforts will be made to resolve the case. But simply filing the notice of claim does not mean that the next day I will go to the finance department and ask for a check for that amount. I should point out that if you are involved in a situation where you're filing a notice of claim specifically looking for property damage, provide us with at least 2 estimates so that we know what the damage is from 2 reputable, particularly repair places. That will allow us to make a better determination as to the legitimacy of the claim and whether or not a settlement is appropriate. But just something for folks to know when those come in, because they do come in with a certain amount of frequency. And if anybody has a question, they can always feel free to give me a call in the law department. I'll be happy to answer those questions. But just want to let everyone know. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Move on to Police Chief Kevin Sylvester.
Good evening. Busy few weeks in the police department. We've got a lot going on. Our main focus over the last couple of weeks and going forward is going to be traffic. So back to school time, we mentioned in our last board meeting that we're asking people to be aware of the school buses and all of the rules that come along with those. If you're following us on social media, you may have seen a lot of our efforts this week. We've got some directed patrols going out and specific enforcement efforts going. So this week we've been working on crosswalks. We also held an event here this week, which we're going to bring back again before it gets too cold, to do car seat installation. So for those that have children or are having children, We install car seats new or help you to install them. Also, if you have children already and you need a seat to be checked, we'll also do that free of charge. You can call here and make appointments with any of our installers, or we have periodic events like we did this week. This week's event, we also were glad to have the fire department and the ambulance corps join us, so we had a Touch a Truck event where the kids that came were able to hang out while their parents got car seats fixed and check out some of the emergency apparatus, so that was a lot of fun. Whole bunch of events coming up. This Saturday, we'll be playing softball at 4 o'clock at Vets Park against the Ossining Fire Department. That game to benefit the Ossining Booster Club, so all about Ossining there, and we will win. Coming up October 1st, we're kicking off sort of a small awareness campaign that we're doing. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, so there'll be a box in the lobby. We're working with My Sister's Place, which is a local organization, and we'll be doing some collection stuff, so look for more information about exactly what we're collecting. October 14th, the PBA has a 5K in Cedar Lane Park to benefit the Hope for Heroes organization, which is a group that does charitable work with disabled veterans, police officers, firefighters, and other first responders. And wrapping up the month of October, we're going to have our Trunk or Treat event where Main Street will be closed and we'll have music and entertainment. It's a really great event since trick-or-treating is sort of going away these days. Not as many people are participating in a lot of neighborhoods, so it gives a lot of people that may not have folks with the light on outside an opportunity to take their kids and do something really exciting. So if anybody's interested in participating in that, certainly reach out to us here at 941-4099, and they can ask for Officer Hershwitz. That's all we got for tonight.
Thank you.
Move on to Treasurer Thomas Warren.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Board of Trustees.
Good evening.
I want to first thank you for considering the addition of the last-minute resolution. Yesterday, we had a taxpayer walk into our office hoping to pay their back taxes, and unfortunately, one of the taxes that they owed was a 2014 property tax, which had become a tax lien, and the period for redemption of that tax lien expired in May of this year. So in order to allow him to pay his taxes, we needed to ask the board if they would allow the redemption of the tax liens so that he could become current on his property taxes. So thank you for your consideration on that. Back in August at the work session when we did a mid-year fiscal review of the village's finances, I'm not sure if we talked about sales tax because the second quarter sales tax payment was just arriving during the month of August, and since this is a different environment where I normally report on sales tax, I'm going to talk about sales tax again if I already did talk about it. We did receive our second quarterly sales tax distribution from the county of $929,409, which year-to-date the two payments totals $1.84 million and is 2.26% higher than the first two payments for 2016. And year-to-date also that represents 50.8% of the budget of $3.625 million. So I'm confident that we're going to meet our sales tax estimate in the 2017 fiscal year. And finally, I wanted to talk about the process that we go through annually during the summer months, and that is when we go out to the bond market. Although this year we didn't actually go to the bond market because we just issued a one-year bond anticipation note. And part of that was for strategic purposes because we have a couple of high-priced capital projects. Really, I think the thing that's driving it is that large engineering study that we're doing on the new Indian Brook water filtration plant that has yet to be built. And unfortunately, because of the fact that it's just an engineering studies only have a 5-year payback on the notes, but once we actually start construction, then we can roll over any unpaid balance into the construction. So last year we had, and I even discussed this with our bond counsel, and he wrote the resolution in phases. So every time we start a new phase, then the clock starts ticking on that 5 years until such time as we can actually issue serial bonds for the actual construction and at these ends. So that plus we still have a little bit of monies left on a prior borrow for the Indian Brook Reservoir reconstruction project. So we're waiting for the actual final cost on that. Plus it costs money to actually go to the bond market, because if it's more than $1 million, you need to have a Moody's bond rating, which is costly. And so the total issue was $4.75 million this year. And in addition to the two phases of the engineering studies, the new monies this year included the fire engine pumper that was authorized a year ago for Independent Fire Company. You know, we wait a full year to issue the debt because it takes that long to build the fire apparatus. And we also had the vehicles that were authorized in 2017, vehicles and equipment totaling about $807,000. We had the $250,000 that was authorized for the street reconstruction this year. And we also had some other amounts to improve village buildings. And we also had prior year notes for vehicles and equipment that were paid down in part, and then the balance rolled over. So I talk about that because we actually solicited bids on September 7th, I believe, and we're actually surprised because you know, this note was based on our underlying bond rating of AA2, since we hadn't updated it, but AA2 is a very good, excellent bond rating to have. And the big surprise was that we actually attracted 8 different bids from banks and financial institutions. 6 of the bids were very closely grouped, ranging from 1.238% net interest cost up to 1.283%. One was high at 1.44. One was very low at 1.09%. So we awarded the ban to the low interest bidder at 1.09%. Getting ready for the actual closing that will happen next week. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify one thing, because when you're talking about the 4.75 million that we went to the bond market for, and you identified some of the items from the 2017 budget, like vehicles and equipment and fire apparatus and such, which represented a little more than $1 million of that, was much of the rest. I guess my question is, a lot of that stuff is from the general fund debt service, but obviously the engineering for the water treatment plant will be associated with the water fund. All of that goes to the bond market in one process? Or it can. In this case, it did. Or no?
A year ago, I think we issued a serial bond and a bond anticipation note. And so being a bond anticipation note, it's just a 1-year note. So last year, the note was $2.079 million. And, you know, based on the period of probable usefulness, we paid down a portion of it. So in the 2017 budget, we'd actually budgeted and paid down about $251,000. And so that left just over $1.8 million that was rolled over into this year's note. And when we actually receive that money, we'll use that money, the $1.8 million, to pay off last year's note. Now, that's often how these things happen when you do 1-year borrowings, is that, you know, it's authorized. And these are actually, as I look through the list, these are some of these items that goes back to 2013. So it's kind of like a rolling type of activity, especially on the vehicles. We'll often just issue the 1-year notes and just keep rolling over the notes and paying them down year after year, you know, for the 5 years, if it's a 5-year life for the vehicle. But you know, this year's issue of new monies was about $2.9 million, which, as it's discussing, you had mentioned, did include the engineering on the on the new water filtration plant. So, this debt is being paid off between general fund and water fund, and it looks like nearly half of it is a water fund debt. So it'll be paid for from the water fund, not from general fund property taxes.
Okay.
So I hope I answered your question. We got
Yes,
close.
that last part was exactly what I was looking for, but thank you. Now I have a better perspective. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Now, the absence of village engineer Paul Frioli, I understand the village manager will read his report.
I will. Thank you. Thank you very much. So there's a few things that Paul wanted all of you to know. One of them was that the new sanitary sewer manhole is being constructed by the train, and that's to give us better access in that area. Let's see. Con Ed continues to perform their underground utility work, and we'll be talking in staff meeting tomorrow about their progress and getting an update from them on how much longer it will take them in the village. We have placed a message board and will install supplemental signage along Snowden corridor to bring attention to the milling operations that are beginning there pretty soon, followed by the paving operations. That'll begin this week. Or no, the week of 9/25. If Con Ed completes their work and clears us to work on Waller Avenue, Croton Street, and Lower Linden and Glen Street, the department will begin to mill and pave those areas as well. And the 2.5-ton weight limit signage necessary for notifying truck drivers of the new restrictions in the area of Aqueduct Street, Broadway, and Bandreth Street will be installed by the end of this week. Public Works appreciates the recent board approval of the operating budget transfers to purchase the new capital equipment in the Public Works and Recreation, and that is the, I call it the leaf sucker. It's
Well, that's on tonight.
that's on tonight's.
It's like the Mr.
Agenda.
Snuffleupagus thing.
It is. And it's really fun to drive to. Anyway, that'll definitely. We do have additional funding in this year that hasn't been used for other things, and it'll make sure that we then won't have to put it on our capital plan for next year. The rental agreement with Metro North Contractors for ongoing instrumentation and electrical work on the Hudson Line is going to be drawing to a close, so our rental revenues, which are now in excess of $60,000, are likely to be closer to $20,000 next year. The design and construction bid documents for the Broadway Bridge Rehabilitation Project will be presented next month at a work session. It is our intent to complete the construction documents this fall, be able to bid and award the bid during the winter so that construction can begin in the spring. At another upcoming work session is an engineering design proposal for the John Paul Rodriguez Operations Center Rehabilitation and Elevator Installation Project. This project will include an elevator installation, whereby making the building accessible to all 3 floors and allowing for expanded and more efficient use of the underutilized space in the building. For the town, through our IMA, the department is presently working on the coordination of the DOT culvert work presently taking place and causing the detour at Route 9A and Route 134 intersection. We are beginning the survey and design phases of the McCarthy Drive Rehabilitation Project, and tonight Andy will be discussing additional town work. And that's all I have.
I think people are especially pleased to hear that Snowden milling and paving is finally going to get underway more than a year after we thought it was going to start happening, but the utility work continued much longer than anticipated. It was my understanding, I believe, that the village is going to be taking care of a portion, I believe, from Matilda up to Route 9 of Snowden right now, and then the western portion is somehow connected to the county work
That is correct.
that may begin someday.
we're not sure. We don't have, I am just talking to Paul this week. We're
Okay.
not sure of the date, yes, but you are correct. We're going to do part of it and they will be doing the other part.
Okay. So we're beginning the eastern portion of Route 9 to Matilda is what people can anticipate getting underway in the next week or so, it sounds like.
That's correct.
That's great. Thank you.
Ready when we actually name the streets and expected dates, even though they may miss some of their dates, because
Sure.
there are a lot of different roads and portions of them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely make sure that we get something from them on what progress they're making on each of the areas and get that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Move on to Superintendent of Water and Sewers, Andrew Teese.
Good evening.
Good evening, Andy.
Okay, the reservoir's getting full right now. It's at 96% capacity. Last month it was at 100. We're purchasing 90% of our water from New York City. Last month it was 100%. We are waiting for the final completed works approval from the DEC for it's basically like the sign off of the dam that they're happy with everything. What's that look for?
Just said we're purchasing 90% of our water from New York City. Are we getting the other 10% from the reservoir?
We're getting the other 10% from our reservoir, and we don't want to draw it down too fast because we want to make sure we get our completed works approval. We can't just draw
But
it.
we are able to obviously draw some of it.
Oh yeah, we could take 100% at times. Depends on the water quality. We're constantly looking at the water quality and how much sludge.
I didn't know we were allowed to yet. That's very exciting.
Yep.
Thank you.
We're scheduled for a 13th design meeting for the new water filtration plant within the next week. We're marching along with all the mechanical design drawings. We will bring Hazen and Sawyer engineers in within the next few months for the Board of Trustees input. So like how it would look and the placing of the plant, that kind of stuff. The Gordon Avenue water main project design was submitted to the Health Department and was approved by the Health Department. It was advertised and competitively bid last month. Jochen Contracting won the bid. We sent the notice of contract award, and we're awaiting the insurance and bond submittals, which I think I did get tonight. We are assisting the New York State DOH with logistics and the infrastructure changes at the intersection of 134 and Croton Dam Road. The contract was for the state to change out the existing culvert along with upgrading this existing sewer, which the town owns the sewer. Village Water Department will install the new 12-inch water line under the base of the culvert and tie the new water line into the new valves that we installed 2 months ago. So we changed all the valving at that intersection so that we were prepared for the shutdown. Today we met with representatives of Westchester County Health Department for our annual pump station and tank inspections. So far, everything looks perfect as far as operations and maintenance. Tomorrow, we'll be reviewing our backflow program with the health department, with the building department. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll now go back to our village manager, Deborah McDonald, for the Superintendent of Parks and Recreation. Thank
Got a
you.
lot of hats tonight, Debbie.
I really want to start by congratulating and thanking the staff down at the Parks and Rec department because all of them have really begun to pull together so nicely to keep operations going, to address the concerns that are coming in, to take care of our customers. And they really have, without a leader, it's sometimes very hard, but they've been doing a great job. And I want all of you to know that it's a pretty amazing staff down there. And I've been going down there and seeing them, and we're going to be working together on some structure and some things that I've talked about in my report. But I do want to say thank you to all of them. And I hope that if you see them, that you'll also thank them for stepping up and stepping in during this time without a superintendent. And in regards to the superintendent search, we did receive the list from Civil Service. There were 5 people that we were going to be interviewing, and unfortunately one of them got caught in the Florida disaster. So we are waiting for her to return to interview her. We've interviewed the others. There may be another applicant that could be a potential transfer to our system. But we are looking to fill that position as quickly as possible. And as soon as I've narrowed that down to a few people, I've actually asked Mayor Garrity and Dana
Levenberg.
Levenberg, thank you, to speak with them as well, just to give me a sense of what they believe. And then I also want to take them down to meet the staff and get a sense of what the staff thinks, because I think it's important for the people that are going to be working with the superintendent to have a little bit of feedback on the person that they want. So I think the process is going very well, and I am looking forward to the last 2 interviews, and then we'll be narrowing it down, and hopefully soon we can make a recommendation for a superintendent that is vibrant and exciting and wants to do great things for our village. So that's all I have for Parks and Rec.
Thank you.
We'll move on to Personnel. Director of Personnel, Linda McMahon.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Trustees. With the start of fall comes the restart of our safety programs. Next week, all DPW, Parks, Water personnel will be attending full-day training on the excavation and trenching safety program, as well as the confined space program. There are approximately 50 employees that will receive the training over the course of the 2 days. Because of the village's commitment to training, as well as providing the necessary tools, including dedicated vehicles that contain the required trenching equipment or confined space equipment, our trainer uses the village of Ossining as the example for other municipalities. Our employees take pride in that. This individual travels throughout the country, training firefighters in trench collapse rescues and bad air rescue operations, unfortunately because other DPW workers do not work safely. As we have done in the past years, on October 12th, we will again offer employees the opportunity to receive a flu vaccine at a convenient location, hoping to keep employees healthy this coming flu season. We're working in partnership with Walgreens to facilitate the program again this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to Director of Planning and Development, Lynn Brooks Abney.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, village manager, corporation council, and Madam Clerk. So to sum up some of the things we've been doing in the last month, as you will recall, we've completed the Housing Ossining assessment. We had a discussion with the board on August 30th with respect to the recommendations in technical paper 4. All of the papers, there are 4 of them, have been posted on the village website, so they are available for people to download and read. There's a quantitative analysis, a regulatory assessment, a documentation of the community engagement process, and a policy framework. And thank you to all who participated in any way that they did, whether it was attending a public meeting or completing an online survey. All the input we received helped provide a more comprehensive picture of the village. And helped inform what recommendations and strategies would have the potential for success in the village. The Indian Brook Gorge watershed is still waiting to hear. They applied, as you will recall, in the summer for a CFA grant for $60,000 for planning and implementation study of the Indian Brook Croton Gorge watershed. We are part of that consortium. And we've been working with IFCA, not just on the proposed grant, but on the current grant from the New York State DHCR, which is providing affordable workforce housing for 10 units at 4951 State Street and 19 Hamilton Avenue. We've been also hard at work over the summer with the IMA, with the town of Ossining and Newcastle, with the grant to look at a cohesive network of bike and pedestrian trails that will link the commercial centers for both the village, the town, and the Newcastle area. The group has met multiple times in the last several months and has tentatively scheduled public work sessions for October. And as soon as the flyer is published by the town, we will publicize it on our website. And we've also been hard at work with the Hudson Valley Arts and Sciences on the Peer Grant. We've had conversations with the DEC and the Army Corps several times. And as you will recall, that grant is to design and permit a pier extension that can accommodate a multitude of uses. And our next upcoming planning board meeting is September 26th. Our next HBC meeting will be on Monday, October 2nd. We are, thanks to some recent appointments from this board, we're going to hold an EAC meeting on Tuesday, October 3rd. We're very excited about that. And our next CBA meeting will be on Tuesday, October 10th.
Lynn, question? No, that's all right. So we've had these things up for a couple of weeks, the first part, the 4 studies?
The technical papers?
Yeah.
Um,
So what kind of feedback have you gotten?
So far, I don't believe we've gotten any feedback from like people from the website. We've disseminated it. People have read it.
Well, but
Um,
so how do we know people are reading it? Are you guys looking at Google Analytics to look at the website to see if people looking at it, like what's the process? So all the website is like a big billboard in the sky. So does anybody know if anybody's looking at it? And if they're not, is there a call to action to get feedback? I mean, I'd be interested if we could work on that. Because then people
we
would just
have
come
a-
and tell us, I didn't even know it was up there, I'm sitting there looking at your YouTube videos, So, I mean, I think we have a website. We need to know if people are looking at it or not. Everything should have like your input, and, you can at least see if 1,000 people clicked on it. If they didn't respond, that's okay, but at least they looked at it.
Okay. It's the final paper. Okay.
There's 4 of them.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
There are 4 of them. Yes.
And I know I've looked at it. I'm sure other people have. I'm not going to be surprised if there's going to be 200-300 hits on those.
Okay. We can check. I'll have a conversation with Craig to see if he can.
But you haven't gotten
Tell
any
us.
calls, or nobody's called you or asked you anything?
No, only other agencies that have, like housing agencies that have done similar reports and stuff like that. No random residents have called to ask about it. People that are using it are people that would use a housing needs assessment or look at it for reference.
If I could just comment.
Please.
I think that's a really great question that you ask. We will be having a staff meeting tomorrow. I'll bring that up at staff meeting and find out how we are measuring, who's looking at our website, things like that, and how we can measure that better. We'll take care of that.
Thank you.
You, you look poised to say something.
Both reports, the JRC and the housing needs assessment, mentioned looking at parking. And I know that we kind of talked about it before, and then you kind of went through the housing needs assessment. But I would like to see us maybe rethink needed parking in the village and about the development. And just kind of like your department, then you guys can actually talk about it. I think you guys have an opportunity to really address parking. We've got 2 studies, we've got 2 different groups, and as development starts taking place in the village, we should change things. One of the things I can tell you is, meetings ask for quarters, right? I don't carry quarters. So when we're talking about who we're inviting downtown, you have a quarter. You got a $30 ticket.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things we've been looking into over the course of this year. So we've got a whole bunch of things we'll be presenting to you on that, not too far in the future from now, but we've got all that information for you.
Time's coming up.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lynn.
A building inspector, Joseph Agostinelli. What? I can never say that. I'm sorry.
Say that fast, Marianne.
Good evening, Mayor Garrity, members of the Board of Trustees. Before I start, I just want to take a quick second to welcome our new manager, Debbie McDonald, to the Village of Ossining. I'm looking forward to working together with you. so we can continue to enhance the building department and implement new ideas to better serve the residents of Austining. To begin, over the last couple of months, the building department has continued to receive, as usual, a large number of building permit applications, electrical, plumbing applications, FOIA requests, code enforcement complaints, which require investigations. Needless to say, the village is an active community that is flourishing with new development, and the building department has an obligation to meet that demand, and we will continue to the best of our ability diligently to accomplish that overall goal. Right now, I'm actively working on translating our building permit applications, sign applications, tree permit applications into Spanish. For the large Hispanic population in our community, the building department forms need to be offered in Spanish to help homeowners and business owners the ability to fill out the applications in a language of their comfort and understanding. Also, over the last month or so, we've been preparing for our yearly Westchester County Health Department audit with regard to backflow installations, as Andy Teese has mentioned earlier. Just a little understanding, a backflow device is required to be installed on all water service lines into residential buildings of 3 families or more, and all commercial buildings to prevent contamination into the water system. This audit is to ensure that we have been working toward having all the buildings that are into these uses that are described that require the installation to comply with health department regulations. The Village of Austining accounts for about 75% of all the backflow applications that are submitted to the county health department. Therefore, it makes the Village of Austining the most compliant municipality in the county.
Nice.
We've received up to date a total of about 40 applications for operating permits out of about the 62 businesses that we assess that require them. We've completed a large number of inspections, have issued some of the permits to those businesses that have complied with all the fire safety requirements. There are a number of businesses that are scheduled to have their inspections done in the near future. For the 22 businesses or so that have not submitted their applications, I suggest that you do so as soon as possible to avoid the possibility of receiving a violation. Our goal is to ensure that each of these businesses are inspected for fire safety and ultimately issue each an operating permit. Another thing is New York State Fire Code and the Village of Austining Code requires that all commercial buildings, and again residential buildings of 3 families or more, install a key box, otherwise known also as a Knox box. For anyone who owns any of these buildings as described, please contact the building department to obtain an application to purchase the required key box, as well as a copy of the local law concerning the requirements of the installation. Lastly, I can bring up, we are now making exceptional progress with scanning and uploading information into the computer system for all of our permits and certificate of occupancies. We have currently now 3 seasonal employees who are doing an excellent job in accomplishing this. I'd like to thank them for taking on the immense but a crucial task. The current pace that we are set at, we've estimated that we should have all these permits and certificates up and files of all the properties completed, hopefully within the next 6 to 8 months. This should hopefully relieve the waiting time for foils, which the building department gets about 90% of all foils, and make the information immediately available at the touch of a finger right from our computer.
Excellent. Somebody moving forward to make a comment? No? Thank you. That's
Thank
good
you.
news about the scanning. Glad to hear that's moving forward at a good pace.
That completes our administrative reports. We'll move on to organizational announcements. Is there anyone who has an organizational announcement they'd like to share? Not seeing any. Move on to village board resolutions. Anyone who would like to comment on any or all the resolutions?
You have a question?
Oh, I think the chief is going to help out with that. Thank you for figuring that out.
Take the money.
Approval of minutes, September 6th, 2017, regular meeting. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austining Hereby approve the minutes of the September 6, 2017 meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk, on the board. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yeah, go ahead.
Abstain.
And the one on September 8th, we're going to have to table because there are only 3 of us in attendance, and one of them was Trustee Codman.
We're tabling. Do I have a motion to table?
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby approves the voucher detail report dated September 6, 2017 in the amount of $393,086.29. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas by local law number 1, 2002, the Board of Trustees established the Village of Ossining Environmental Advisory Council as a necessary step in fostering unified action on environmental problems. And whereas the Environmental Advisory Council consists of 9 members appointed by the Board of Trustees, and whereas the Board of Trustees wants to fill the vacancies on the Environmental Advisory Committee to permit the council to perform its duties as set out in the Village Code. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees appoints Anthony Bustamante to the Village of Ossining Environmental Advisory Committee for a term expiring 2 years from the date of appointment. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I'd just like to say welcome to Mr. Bustamante in a moment, if you all agree to this, and I have a pretty sneaking suspicion that we are supportive of this. It's really, I am so happy every time we come to one of these meetings and we're able to appoint another person to one of these volunteer boards, councils, and commissions. We have at least 10, and we've had a number of appointments in recent weeks and months, and that's speaks well to the highly engaged community that we have. Having the input of community members in a variety of ways. This is folks who have a particular interest in the environment, but there's quite a diversity of ways that people can contribute to their community and serve their community. And so I encourage anyone to go on our website. There's an icon right down in the middle of the homepage. It's some raised hands. And click right there, and it will take you to a list of all of the boards, councils, and commissions. And it will also give you some instructions on, which are really very simple. It's send an email to the Jamie Hoffman at the village manager's office and tell us what you're interested in, a letter of interest, resume, anything just explains why you might be interested in serving and which particular organizations, councils, committees you're interested in learning more about and perhaps interviewing for. Because we do have either vacancies or expired terms on almost all of them, not quite all of them, but almost all of them. So there's a lot of opportunities for folks to step up and serve in Ossining. We're so grateful to everyone who has been doing it for many years, as well as folks like Mr. Bustamante who are stepping up today. Any other comments? Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas the Village of Ossining previously has employed William J. Hamilton as Deputy Corporation Counsel, and whereas the Village of Ossining is desirous of continuing that relationship with Hamilton Law Firm PC, of which William J. Hamilton is principal, and whereas William J. Hamilton similarly is desirous of continuing the relationship with the Village of Ossining through the Hamilton Law Firm PC, and whereas the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees wants to enter into a retainer agreement with Hamilton Law Firm PC effective October 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017. Now therefore be it resolved that the village manager is authorized to execute a retainer agreement with Hamilton Law Firm PC for a fixed fee of $10,925.76, payable in equal monthly installments of $3,641.92 for the term of October 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017. Such retainer agreement subject to review and approval by the Corporation Council. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the board? Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, on October 4th, 2017, at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard, to consider local law number 6, 2017, titled A Local Law Amending Chapter 88, Brush, Grass, and Weeds, of the Village of Austin Code. Do I have a motion?
Second.
I just want to say thank you to Corporation Counsel Kahan for doing some research and learning about existing codes in other municipalities in the area and drawing from some of what's worked well elsewhere. I'm very pleased whenever we can be responsive to concerns that are raised to us, especially when it comes to us both from community members and from staff members on how can we do a better job. In this case, it's of the goal will be to have particularly our sidewalks be welcoming and passable for everyone who wants to walk around our beautiful community. So I look forward to the public hearing and moving through this process.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas Isla del Tesoro, 185 Main Street, Austin, New York, by its president Laura Alvarenson, submitted a combined license application for a cabaret license, refreshment license, and coin-operated amusement device license pursuant to the village code, and whereas the refreshment and coin-operated amusement device licenses were issued by the village clerk as licensing officer, and whereas following successful completion of the inspection of the premises by the acting building inspector on August 31st, 2017, and receipt of documentation from the Village of Ossick Police Department on September 13th, 2017, the Village Board of Trustees publicly discussed the application for a cabaret license, which discussion included a presentation by Chief Kevin Sylvester of the Village of Ossick Police Department detailing the police department's response to incidents at 185 Main Street. And whereas representatives from the applicant were present for the discussion by the Board of Trustees on September 13th, 2017, and whereas the Board of Trustees considered that documents submitted in connection with the application, including the documents from the Police Department and Building Department, in reaching its decision. Now therefore be it resolved that the application by La Isla del Tesoro, 185 Main Street, for a cabaret license is denied. And now therefore be it further resolved that pursuant to Village of Austin Code Section 171-13, the fee paid by the applicant La Isla del Tesoro for the cabaret license only should be refunded to the applicant, and that the refunded fee should be sent to the applicant's last known address. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
I'll just say it's pretty unusual that we deny a request for a cabaret license, but as Corporation Counsel has really detailed the whole process here, you probably figured out it was we asked for the advice of in this case it was the police department that had some concerns, and we tend to. I don't think we've 100% going along with all of your recommendations on things, but we tend to really take very seriously. We always take very seriously the recommendations of our professionals in law enforcement as well as our other departments, and in this case, we are unable to move forward with that portion of their request. But it's an unusual circumstance. So thank you, Corporation Counsel, for detailing all of the steps that went through supporting the various licenses for this app.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the 2017 general fund budget is modified to transfer available unexpended appropriations to allow for the purchase of a replacement leaf vacuum equipment trailer for the Parks Department to be purchased under NJPA contract as follows. Increase appropriation in the general fund account number 001-7110 201 Parks Department equipment, $30,078.60. Decrease appropriation in the general fund 001-71 402 463 Recreation Department preventative maintenance service agreements, $30,078.60. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board, Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm going to abstain, Mary Ann.
Thank you. Whereas in accordance with the Ossining Village Charter, Article 4, the village treasurer is charged with the duty of collecting real property taxes from persons named in the tax roll. And in accordance with the New York State Real Property Tax Law, Section 1110, the village treasurer has the authority on or before the expiration of the applicable redemption period to accept payment of real property taxes from such persons along with all charges authorized by law for real property subject to delinquent tax liens. And whereas the applicable redemption period expired as of June 12, 2017, for the 2014 real property taxes, which has become delinquent tax liens in May of 2015, and with such expiration of the redemption period, the treasurer has no authority without action by the Board of Trustees to accept further payments, and whereas notwithstanding the expiration of such redemption period, the representative of the property owner for certain real properties located in the village at 43 North Malcolm Street has provided sufficient proof of, 1, an ability to pay in full all taxes and assessments against the subject property to bring the account up to date, and 2, the ability to make a full and complete settlement in satisfaction of the foreclosed delinquent tax lien. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees hereby authorizes and directs the treasurer to accept payment in an amount sufficient to pay in full the total amount, including any interest, penalties, and other charges authorized by law of the real property taxes and any tax liens, both pending and foreclosed, for property located at 43 North Malcolm Street in the Village of Ossining, and authorizes any and all necessary filings or notifications to evidence a release of said liens against the real property. Do I have a motion?
Second.
On the board? Well, we're always very happy to have people paying their taxes, so I'm pleased that this is moving forward. Delinquent as they may be, we will glad to be able to accept their check. Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That completes your resolutions for this evening. Do you have any continuing business of the board?
We do not.
Okay. Do we have any new business of the board?
Do not.
That brings us to visitor recognition. Is there anyone who's come to address the board? If so, please state your name and your residential address.
First, I would like to say good afternoon, good evening to the mayor, board members, and all of the officials of the Village of Ossining. My name is Jerry Smith. I'm a longtime resident of the village. I now reside at 75 Spring Valley Road, Ossining, New York. My purpose for coming tonight is to get some kind of idea of where the board stands on an issue or a request that I put before the board in May of 2017. It's tough, I know, when you run the village or any organization, keep up with all the things that you got to do, especially when it's not the normal agenda. But I'm hoping that the board can take the opportunity to let me know if it's some kind of process that's being taken, or if we could address that application that I put in.
Okay. I'm looking at you, Stuart. Debbie has no idea what we're talking about. Mr. Smith, welcome. And I believe, and I'm sorry that your name didn't ring a bell instantly. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for coming. You're talking about the potential renaming of Snowden Park.
Yes.
Okay. We did actually discuss not your specific request, but the process, and the fact that we haven't had a very formal process for any of our naming, whether it's streets or parks or park benches. And so we discussed what would be an appropriate process, and you're nodding.
We did have
Mr.
that
Gahan,
discussion
please.
because, yes, it's not, it definitely occurred because I went back after I saw Mr. Smith's note. We did have this discussion earlier in the summer. We reviewed other ordinances, particularly there was a New Rochelle ordinance, which has a very specific for naming both streets and parks and what the process is. And I think at this point, it would be a matter to discuss with the board as to formalize a process for actually naming particular locations or renaming, be it a park, be it a street, or something like that. Because we don't have anything as stands now in our code which actually deals with that. You know, I don't have the history to know how some of the other locations were in fact named, were they via resolution, but there's no particular code provision which deals with that. You know, it's certainly something that can be done. It would be more a determination of the board if they want to formalize it, and then if they want to formalize it, do they want to name the particular park as referenced by Mr. Smith?
And I have a pretty good memory, but not perfect. And so, Trustee Levin, I'm kind of looking at you because as a liaison to the Recreation and the board, I know that there are a couple of requests or recommendations that have come to them and not come to us because since we have no formal process, people just kind of go to the group that they associate with. So it really raised further questions of how we should be looking at everything and what's the proper process for that. I will say I'm very sorry that no one from the village followed up with you after that meeting because I think that was one of the things we were supposed to do. So we failed to do at least that. So, but Trustee Levin, did you want to comment?
On the Parks and Rec, there are also a number of different requests, from benches to trees to renaming a baseball field in honor of someone. And so that board, of which I'm simply a liaison, a non-voting member, but it has come up as an issue before the summer, and then they adjourn for the summer as to having a process. Because I guess at some point the board would receive one request once in a while, a year, or every 3 years, or 10 years. But now the request seems to be coming a little bit swifter, and there's just no process to decide how one names things, frankly. And so they're looking for a process as well, because they don't know how to make the decision.
Debbie and Stewart,
Yes.
is it possible for you guys to present something to the board and bring it to a work session? And if we are going to do a process, to then inform Mr. Smith of what the process is at that point, if we choose to formalize the process, but sooner rather than later, because it has been 4 months, and it's definitely unfortunate that no one has actually reached out to Mr. Smith. You definitely have our apologies, but if we could just move this along, that'd be great.
We can certainly do that.
You didn't use up all your time, so please go ahead, sir.
Just to kind of make clear what our request would be, it's not that we want a park named after people particular to them. I'm thinking that we're asking that we create a memorial park that names can be added in the future of people who made significant contributions to the village. Now, I'm not saying that we need to name Bobby Williams because he's Bobby Williams. I'm saying that at some point, and we do have some way we're naming parks to illustrate the contributions of people in the village. Snowden Park is the only park that doesn't have that destination. It's just out of the street, Snowden Avenue Park. If you look at veteran parks, all the other parks is a park that's dedicated to services that either a serviceman put in or something. So we're looking to say, can we get some area, some structure that we can honor people who contributed to what Ossining may be 10 years from now. And I'm not saying that we have to say it has to be Bobby Williams or Sundial Sadiq. I'm just saying that they should be one of the first names on there, because during my lifetime, and then probably the lifetime of most of the people that are sitting on the board, these people have had a significant impact on how Ossining have developed. And it's other people. I like Don DeBar. I also love what Tom Cambrieri did when he was mayor. So those are also names that may be added. But I hope that the board can come to some kind of way that we can get this thing going. I appreciate the board letting me come in and speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
And we did handle that in a slightly unusual manner. We don't usually pause, discuss, input, continue, but this is something that it almost should have been on as continuing business because we dropped the ball. So thank you for making us pick the back up, and we'll be adding it to an upcoming work session. Thanks.
Is there anyone else who's come to address the board? Not seeing any, may I have a motion for an adjournment?
I'd like a motion to adjourn to executive session for discussion of real property as well as personnel related to specific persons.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So with that, I say thank you so much for joining us. We will see you in 8 days on the 27th of September, back on our usual Wednesday evening, and we'll be up at Village Hall, 16 Croton Avenue for our work session. This meeting is adjourned to executive session.